Who is Jealouspainter? Jealouspainter is a painter who gave up on painting and is now a musician. My first experience playing instrument was probably when I was a young toddler, playing a little toy xylophone. I think I had learned how to play the Star Wars because it's just major scale, so it was like a little rainbow xylophone with a little, I think, wooden, handles, and I just kind of picked it up by ear, and I think my parents have a picture or video of that somewhere. So what kind of music was I around growing up? My dad played a lot of classic rock, some prog rock too, and my mom was a lot of, she listened to a lot of pop that leaned kind of on the indie, I guess, side we'd call that now. Also, she loved the Motown stuff, the kind of classic old soul songs. Did the music I listened to growing up influence the music I'm making now? Probably to an extent. I would say for this project, I was probably more influenced by 90s rock revival more than any of that other stuff that I mentioned earlier. Kind of maybe some soft rock, psychedelic stuff, and like Joni Mitchell also was a big one for this project. But I didn't really have much of that growing up. That was very much a very recent thing, like in the last year that I picked up that genre. I think the fact of wearing a disguise, wearing the mask especially, helps me. It liberates me in the sense that there cannot be a preconceived idea of what the performance, or music will be like. In choosing to give no information, I am giving information, which is this doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter more than the music, I guess I should say, or it doesn't contribute to the music the way maybe other artists' iconography does. You'll have like a retro sounding band with a retro image and retro graphics, and they'll really play that up, and that's cool. But with this, it's kind of like the character, I guess, can do what she wants, because nobody knows who she is. Kind of like a Superman thing. The reception to the whole outfit thing or the disguise has been super positive. It's been really fun, Everyone has their own association with it, which is kind of the point. If I'm not telling you who I am and you can only put yourself on that stage, I think that, art is supposed to connect people to themselves. If anonymity does that, then that's cool. It's hard for me to say because, again, I don't experience the show myself, but it does make sense that the act of not giving certain information about my identity might open up the possibilities of what the songs mean more. I think the fact of the anonymity actually allows people to project themselves onto the stage and the songs more so than me projecting myself onto them. The choice to sit down on the floor while performing happened when I got to Casa del Popolo in Montreal for my first show that I played. I got there and I had a red pillow with me, and I was just like, you know what? The songs are small, they're intimate, maybe I'll just sit down and play them and sing them. And my main concern was if I could see the guitar neck with the mask on, and I could. If I keep it low down, I can see my fingers. So yeah, I guess the whole sitting down. I've never seen myself in a show. I've only played the show, but people do often comment about the sitting down adding to the mystery. One thing I've noticed that's different with other projects I've been in is that the audience is very quiet when Jealouspainter performs. People respond to the intimacy factor and the anonymity, and then because of those things, there's nothing else to focus on except the songs, and I get more precise comments, I think, about the lyrical content, especially guitar tone for fellow nerds and stuff like that. People who are there to hear a story, there's less distracting you from that story. There's no band, the dynamic is really, monotonous in a way, so there's only, if you are able to focus on it, it's there. What prompted the arrangements on Wired and Tired? Well, I think what it came down to was whatever I had at my disposal, both in terms of equipment and skill. Recording an EP at home in my bedroom and writing everything here and playing everything here, there's certain limitations. I don't have my own engineer, mixing, mastering, all that. So I just kind of, if I had an acoustic guitar that was working, I would use that. And if I got a new guitar pedal I wanted to try out, I would try that. And I got a bass recently, but before I had the bass, I was just dropping my guitar down an octave in Ableton. I definitely think that kind of experimentation brought me somewhere I wouldn't have gone if I had been given all the tools in the world. I think that when you have like a limited palette, so to speak, you're forced to discover something new, and that is a really precious thing. I think some of the best albums in the world are recorded with bare bones kind of approach. It's really, you have to let the songs speak for themselves. I think Wired and Tired might sound a little spooky, which is okay with me, but it was also has a bit of an ease to it for certain songs too, vocally, and in the, it's all low tempo, kind of not droney, but definitely kind of a chilled out vibe, but it's also a few kind of things in a minor key, and When I recorded Wired and Tired, I was in a place where I was frustrated with other creative projects, and I got caught up comparing myself to other artists, especially visual artists. It kind of really put me into a funk, a real depression, and then I didn't help my case. I listened to an audiobook of Sylvia Plath's Bell Jar novel, which is about a young woman's kind of entering a psychiatric ward because she burns out and goes through depression, and that really did not help my mood. But when I learned about how much of a jerk her husband was to her, Ted Hughes, Sylvia Plath's husband, I just became even more frustrated and more angry, and decided that I needed to put this kind of frustration into a project that was productive. Sylvia Plath was a creative genius. She was an incredible poet, incredible writer, and then to see some honest, just jerk dude completely throw a cog in her whole deal is kind of pissed me off to see that, because her potential, imagine what she could have done if she had stayed around, and it was all ruined for what? For some asshole husband who cheated on her a bunch and didn't care to commit and wasn't there, If that importance wasn't there in her life, the importance of having a man and being the perfect wife and bearing all the children, if that pressure wasn't there and she could have just kind of let herself be the artist that she really was, I just, the loss of that artist really got to me at that time, and I think that's probably what comes out in the music. The significance of the title Wired and Tired, I think it's, again, the duality of the defeated kind of attitude that can come over artists. It's comparing yourself to other people or measuring yourself up to whatever expectations, and also a kind of need to feverishly produce. It equally brings you down and puts you up, and it's an impossible duality because it's exhausting and it's never enough, and either way you feel really crappy. So yeah, that's kind of, again, the zone I guess I was in when I wrote it. I think the main thing that really pushed me to do this was the fact that I felt so kind of boxed in and stale artistically, and my projects weren't really doing well apart from this one, before this. And again, when I read about the relationship Sylvia Plath had with Ted Hughes, and then saw that as a pattern actually with Frida Kahlo, the painter, and her husband Diego Rivera, Amy Winehouse with whatever Blake, whatever his name is, and Janis Joplin with whoever her guy was, and just seeing this pattern of this idea many women are taught is that the most important thing in their life is that they have a man. If you look at these amazing artists, it's who gives a shit if you have a man? Look what you made, you know what I mean, to me. And that's not really, it has been an issue for me in the past, for a woman, especially during Sylvia Plath's time, during Janis Joplin's time, and even for Amy, although it was recent, it was still very much a thing about attaching your identity to the man and not to yourself. And that seems to really fuck up a lot of women, especially creatives, because if they had seen their value, their intrinsic value, as stemming from them and not from the validation of another person, especially a romantic partner, again, their potential would have been, sky's the limit. There would have been no, psychological, not relating to the relationship thing or the girlfriend thing, there wouldn't have been that block, I don't think, if we hadn't placed the importance on it and created a complex for women. So I think seeing that pattern of completely thwarting a woman's career path or creative output for a boy, that was not okay with me. I don't know if I've heard a lot of music addressing that particular topic. I know that it's talked about in circles, and it's the kind of thing I think that when you become aware of it, you see the pattern. Like I said, when I really dug into Sylvia Plath's life, it reminded me so much of that movie, of Frida's movie, and then I read, not just the movie, but actually I read about her life too, and was what is it about exceptionally creative, powerful women that attracts shitty men, and that was interesting for me, and maybe it's getting better now, but I don't know if we're deep enough in that yet, and identity for women artists and the pressure of being the career lady and the wife and mom, and as an artist though, that's not a very mainstream conversation that I've seen yet. I think that the prospect of getting signed can be overwhelming to indie artists, but it's also can be seen as that big unattainable goal that we all kind of secretly want. I think it depends on the work in it, the work you're willing to put into doing an indie for real. If you're willing to really book all your own shows and create an audience for yourself and do all that, and that's great if that's your goal. This project for me isn't really oriented around that all that much, so I'm kind of cool with just hiding away, releasing music whenever the heck I want, in whatever genre I want, singing how I want, and writing whatever words I want, playing as often or as rarely as I want. For me, this project needs that freedom, but I understand why today some indie artists might kind of pine for being signed. It's seen as an accomplishment, first of all, and second of all, it can lend a certain amount of financial stability to an extent then that you might not have otherwise. At the same time, it's probably, I would argue that it might be easier now to monetize, because you can play corporate gigs, you can join as many bands as you want, and you can shoestring a tour relatively easily today with the internet. Back in like the 60s, you kind of needed a team around you to contact all these venues and do that. I can just send a Facebook message to a venue today and book a gig in Ottawa by the end of the week if I wanted to. So I think that there is the possibility for more freedom of control as an independent artist today. It takes a lot of work, but it's doable. I think for me, the prospect of being signed would potentially interest me, but it depends on the label. So right now, it is 2019, it is January as we are speaking, and I am in the midst of recording another project called Motel Anthems. And it's another bedroom thing, but it's a bit different. My guitar playing's gotten better for one, and I'm actually using drum machines, which is a new thing that I wasn't doing before. There are more songs now, and in fact, this is something I haven't done before. I'm including instrumental songs on, it's going to be a full-length album. I'm going to include some instrumental tunes on there too. I think content's a little bit different. It's not as angry, it's not as Sylvia Plath focused, but it's definitely in a similar kind of vein of like finding yourself as a person, as an artist, the idea of redemption, answering the call to your spirit. Yeah, just whatever's there. That's the whole thing. It's whatever's there. That's what the song is.